I've got a pair of Bang Olufsen A1 second generation. These are small, possibly highly priced pancakes. Impossibly small, yet high quality 360-degree speakers. I do have a pair. I have to tell you, heads up, to keep my videos, try and keep my videos a little bit shorter. I'm going to try and break them up into this video being the specs and overview and first listen of a single Bang Olufsen A1 second gen, and do the stereo overview and comparisons in another video. I will tell you, one of my Bang Olufsen A1 second gens works absolutely fine. My other one is as buggy as hell. Second gen is second gen. So what's changed? I didn't have the first gen. I'm telling you what the spec sheets say. They've increased the battery capacity. So apparently the old A1 was 2,200 milliamps. We've now got 3,000 milliamp hours. I will tell you this runs at 7.2 volts, which means it's actually 6,000 milliamp hours, but in terms of 3.7s, it's a 3 milliamp hour capacity battery. It does come now with Amazon Alexa integration. Well, they say integration, it's not really integration because it's going to work with your phone. So there is an Alexa mic and button on here which you can call up Alexa. Just bear in mind, it's not a standalone Alexa device. You can drop this in up to 1 meter of water and leave it there for 30 minutes and come back and apparently play it. However, I dropped it in a bathtub of water for like 5 seconds. It didn't float, and it took a couple of hours before it was playable again because there was water inside. It did get around the tweeter, and it wasn't really till the next day that I got the tweeter clarity totally back. So this is not a speaker you can chuck in the water and take out the water and carry on merrily playing. I have to say, you can take this grill off. It's only a slight click, slight turn, and it comes off very easily. That is not going to be the most watertight item in the world, because to get that back in is a tiny, tiny turn. So I think either it's getting through those gaps, but I don't think so. I think really it's just not that well water sealed, because once you've twisted that off for the first time, it's never quite the same again. So have a think about it before you take it off for the first time. It's never going to be that tight afterwards. They had an auxiliary in, a 3.5mm jack on the original first gen A1. They've removed it as a clear improvement, maybe, on the second gen. So no auxiliary in. You did have your LED indicator light, which for several functions such as a Bluetooth, where you are with Bluetooth connection, and indeed if it's powered on or off, or if you're trying to connect in stereo, it will turn between blue and white and a flashing mode. Apparently they did have it on the side. It's now on the top. I will turn this on and you can maybe see. It is a tiny, tiny light. I don't know if you're seeing that at all. It's a tiny light, but yeah, if you're face on, it's very obvious, even though it's very, very small. Apparently it's on top. That, I'm told, is a big improvement. On paper, you will see the headline specs say was 60 Hertz to 20 kilohertz, now 55 Hertz to 20 kilohertz. What they don't tell you is how they are measuring that. So they could say 1 Hertz to a billion kilohertz. I don't know. I always think it's ridiculous. If you don't tell us plus or minus what, it actually has no meaning. Why even stop at 55 Hertz? In terms of battery life, I did get 3 hours 58 minutes on my maximum volume test. It didn't seem to change how loud it was playing for that entire 4 hours. I'm saying that because when I did my 66% volume test, I got 4 hours 10 minutes at 66% volume. It then stopped playing. I don't know if that's coincidence or not. I just immediately hit play again on my phone. The speaker hadn't turned off, but it just stopped playing. And then it continued for about another 27 hours. Yes, it really did continue for 27 hours. I got a total of 31 hours, 23 minutes on the 66% volume set on my phone. But actually, after 4 hours, 10 minutes, and when I hit play again, it was playing at 33%. It was still set to 66%. I did check it, but it obviously went into a low volume mode. So 66%, you're going to get 4 hours, 10 minutes, about the same as you'd get at max. And after that, it's going to play about 33%. It's not particularly loud, but you can hear it. It's a listen. So if it's an absolute emergency and you can't charge it for 2 days, you could almost listen to it for 2 days, continuous, 31 hours, 23 minutes before it actually flashed red and turned itself off. albeit not at 66%, although the phone is set to 66%, but probably something around 33% volume. So in battery, clearly an improvement from what I read about generation 1, but of course it is a bigger battery. It's 2000 milliamps in the first gen, it's 3000 milliamps in the second gen. Second gen does not appear to go as loud as the first gen, which of course is going to help battery life, simply because it's not going as loud. Also seem to be tuned a little bit different, which is probably again helping battery life. So they're squeezing a lot more out of the battery life. And then it goes into a low volume mode so you can keep playing. But in true specs, maximum volume 4 hours. Still a lot better than people are I'm hearing, from people about Gen 1. But bear in mind, probably doesn't go as loud as Gen 1. So which is why it's going longer and with a bigger battery. 4 hours, 10 minutes, but then on 66% volume, it's going to switch to low volume mode. Well, it did on mine. That's all I can tell you, and it was definitely still set to 66% volume. We do have aptX codec, so that's a higher end codec. If you're playing, decent quality files, that hopefully will make a difference. Some people can hear the difference, some people can't. I think it does make a difference, but it depends on what you're playing, what tracks, the quality of the tracks you are playing through it. I did say I got a pair. It does support true wireless stereo pairing. You can pair them manually, and you can pair them via the app. I have to say the app is a pain, and even when I uninstalled the app for being a pain, it was still there, because every time I connected one of my A1s, it pops up with a little message, link it to your account. Even wants you to make an account with an email, and you've got to link it to it, and it's a bit over the top. And as I said, mine's still there after having uninstalled it. We do have USB-C. We have USB-C on the back. It does charge 5 volts, 3 amps, which is nice. And we have the power light there. So the power light, when you're down to 40%, it will go orange for 5 minutes. When you're down to 20%, it will turn red. And when you're down to 10%, it will start flashing red. So you do have a warning. You don't need to look in the app. So that's quite handy. It is the latest Bluetooth 5.1. And incredibly, on paper, this very expensive pancake is a 60-watt speaker, not just a 60-watt speaker. It's got dual amps, because you do have a tweeter. In fact, you have a 15mm tweeter, I will show you that tweeter, and a 90mm woofer, and they each have a 30-watt amp. So you've got the same watts, the same power. Now, I said it wasn't much of a seal, and now I'm struggling to take it off. However, you can see it is actually off. So that is our woofer. That is our tweeter. So that's the look inside. There's your tweeter. There's your woofer. In terms of Bluetooth latency, I found it pretty good. 90 milliseconds on YouTube. That's with my phone. Your experience may be different, but also playing via MX Player, playing files locally, I was getting 100 milliseconds. So for a 95 millisecond average, it's about as good as I have got in terms of Bluetooth latency. It does have a speakerphone. You can take calls on this. It does have the internal mic, and you can speak through the speaker. They describe this as a waterproof leather hanger, so you can hang it from a tree or a branch when you're outside and have it on axis like that. They say it's got a polymer base, and it has a pearl blasted aluminium top. There are controls on the side that allow you to play, pause, skip forward and skip backwards. In terms of wireless stereo pairing, I will point out there's no wireless lock. Each time you want to play them in stereo, you will have to either pair them via the app or physically pair them with each other. This is not mini rig type, or all these cheap Chinese ones are doing it, for cheap money. Working true wireless lock. You pair them once, and next time you turn on two speakers. Those two speakers, they will automatically connect in stereo. These £200 speakers, and did I even mention these are £200 each? They will not come on. You will have to physically pair them in stereo each and every time. Well, maybe has an amazing frequency response. They are, as I said, claiming 55 hertz to 20 kilohertz. These are my frequency response measurements. So, measuring on axis, speaker on its edge facing you, 20%, 40%, 60%, 80%, 100% volume. So it doesn't look too bad. Bass heavy, obviously 20%, roll off going all the way up the high end. So that looks a bit muddy. but 40%, 60%, 80%, very bass heavy, but the rest of the response reasonably smooth, but dips 3K to 10K, 500 Hertz to about 1 kilohertz. But this is on axis. Your listening is going to be off axis, about 45 degrees. So measuring 45 degrees, 20%, 40%, 60%, 80%, 100% volume. It's a bit different now. All volumes, you've got the roll off in the high end. It's almost been tuned for on axis when you listen off axis. It's looking a bit ominous. Big bass until you get to maximum volume where clearly there's that roll off. But the high end heading in the wrong direction. Frequency response 45 degrees. Blimey. About 65 peaking, 50 dB dip. It's about 15 dB range. Albeit bass is going pretty low. On axis, that's 60%. A bit better. Obviously bass heavy, but the rest of it pretty smooth. 61 the dip, 71 peak. So there, plus or minus 5 dB, the entire range. What does it actually sound like? So that clip was at 76%. And here is my major problem with the speaker. After 80-85%, it's already reducing the bass. Now, I will say, it has incredible bass for its size and for most sizes, really. And even that top volume, that bass is still there. But however, it does start, that bass-heavy speaker does start reducing after about 85%. However, this is unlistenable about certainly under 40%. Real world volumes are going to be over 76% for me. And for most of the time, I'm near maximum volume. To give you an idea how you cannot play this at low volume because there's no volume there. I'm going to give you a clip of the volume steps. I'm going to start with a maximum volume. Adjust your speaker to that first clip and then leave it. Don't turn it up when you get to 20% because you can't hear it, because that's what's happening in the real world. At 20%, my ambient sounds in my apartment, which is not loud, is already louder than this speaker can go. It's this is more 20%. These are the real world volume steps.
I've been put on hold, I'm home alone, my dreams postponed, I guess we'll have to take a rain check. I'm sinking fast and I'm sinking low, slave to my phone, jokes on me. Arthur Fleck, I'm seeing phoniness and trepidation, why me? Loneliness and now isolation, can't be. Now this is stream of conscious is dreams, and I already told you that nothing's as it seems. Say goodbye to the 2020 vision, things are blurry now when I'm sitting in this prison. I'm wondering why I've been put in this position. Someone check my pulse, I'm not in the best condition. But maybe now I can really start to listen and use this transition and fuel my ambition. And maybe now I can give myself permission to see what I've been given and not focus on what's missing. January was solitary, February broke my heart, March was misplaced, later erased, spring was called off from the start. April showers brought no flowers because May was dreary gray. And gloom and June, it came too soon and all our dreams were washed away. It was misplaced, later erased, spring was called off from the start. April showers brought no flowers because May was dreary gray. Off to you, so take the ball from me, big it to not fumble. Break the wall for me, need the brick to crumble. And this is past its prime, this is Fred Durst, I'm running out of time.
I will point out, I'm making these recordings at 45 degrees. I'm thinking, you know, I don't have to be a brain surgeon to understand most people are going to listen like that. However, you can stand this speaker on its edge. It's rolling now, but you can do that. And of course you can hang it somewhere, or you could put it in some sort of holder. I was trying to try it to see if it works in the grill, but no, it's just a bit not quite the right size. However, you can easily stand it on its edge. It's not a problem. And if you remember, my frequency response suggests the tuning makes most sense when it's on axis. It doesn't seem to be tuned that much with a view to a 45-degree listening. So you do get a sense of you not getting the full benefit of that tweeter off axis. It does sound a bit recessed in the highs till you get to the highest volumes, 80% or so and above, then it comes alive. But just to give you an idea, the difference between listening like that, and of course it's 360-degree mode like that, on axis versus off axis.
7 days, 7 nights since my head got cut and died. And I've had 7 days since I tried to rip a chapter out my mind. I've tried, and his laugh is just as soft as yours, smiling just as wide. He could be what I like, and his voice is just as dark as yours, freckles just as light. Could be what I desire. Still feels like my hands are tied, hands are tied, hands are tied. 'Cause he's got those stranger eyes, stranger eyes, stranger eyes. And he could be what I like, what I like, what I like. But he's got those stranger eyes, stranger eyes, stranger eyes.
So for me, I'd much prefer it. It comes alive for me on axis. I know it doesn't make a lot of sense buying this sort of form factor and doing that. I will say, one of these sticky tape holders makes a great base for not a lot of money, probably about 50p, and that's a perfect stand for that. So we know we can take the grill off very, very easily, but once you've done that the first time, it's never going to be quite as tight again, which may be the reason why I got water inside mine. So 45 degrees, but grill on and grill off.
Honey, I'm a perfect 10. What does perfect even mean? Is there even such a thing? Ooh, can we switch up all the rules and imagine a utopia? Darling, I'm just so fed up with these expectations. They keep weighing me down. My heart is begging me to get the hell out of my head. I wanna live inside the upside down for a minute and pretend. Honey, I'm a perfect 10. Whoa, whoa. Honey, I'm a perfect 10. Whoa, whoa. And if I say it enough, it gets ingrained in my head, and I start to see. Honey, I'm a perfect 10. 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 Whoa. Honey, I'm a perfect 10. Disgusted with myself, and I'm disgusted with the way we're told to have a certain face, a certain weight, because we aren't pixels on a screen. No, we're human.
As expected, the main difference is between 10, 12 kilohertz with the grill off, we get a nice little boost there. So a boost at the high end with the grill off, a little bit louder, of course, all along the frequency response. Marginally, we've taken the cover off, it's marginally louder, but the biggest difference is high end boost, 10 to 12 kilohertz. So I was expecting a bit more of a difference. It does make a difference, but you might not actually like it. You may find it a little bit sibilant, the frequency range that you do get the boost on. However, it is an option. Just don't drop it in water like that. Although I'm not sure it makes that much difference. I don't know if that really is providing all of the waterproofing. Now, how else can you change the sound? So we've got the app, and if you go into the app, there are things you can do with the EQ. Now, you get some preset modes. The preset modes are ambient, party, and speech. You also get, if you go into the EQ, to me, it's the most ridiculous EQ app that I've used. I'm guessing it's because they want to limit what you can do with the speaker, but then it's the same for all their speakers. Just give us some sliders. Or is it that you're scared any more bass, but adjusting something else is too much distortion? I don't really understand why you can't just change it how you want it. You've got bright, relaxed, energetic, warm. They're probably quite explanatory, self-explanatory what they mean. But in case it's not, this is an example of what they do. So the app gives us 3 set EQ modes. We've got the default mode. These are measured at 45 degrees. Ambient mode, which gives you a bit more of the high end, a bit less in the mids, a bit more in the low end, still mega bass heavy. Party mode, even more bass, not quite as much highs as ambient, missing some of the mids again. Then you get speech mode. Blow me, that's not a speech mode that I recognise, that's a smoothing out of the frequency response. I was expecting around 500 Hz to say 4 kilohertz, a big peak and then dropping away at each end, but no. That looks a lot smoother. Well, that's interesting. So a little bit less bass and the rest of the frequency response much smoother. Going into the EQ section of the app, you've got your 4 ends. You've got the warm at the bottom, more bass, less highs. You've got your energetic, not quite as much bass boost as warm, but you get more highs, less mids again. You get the relaxed section, that's a boost to the mids, but you lose it at the very high end. And then you get the bright end. And again, rather than being very bright, that looks like a smoothing out of 45 degrees. If you want to retain a bit more of the bass, So just go 50% towards the bright end, keep a bit more bass, not quite as much at the high end, but again looking a smoother response. So interesting to me, the speech mode, bright mode's 50% and bright mode full on. How does it compare to optimal, the default mode? So yeah, about 50% towards the bright end, the bright top makes the most sense if you want a bit more clarity. However, you can't do that and not get some penalty in the bass. And when you play them at the real world volumes 80% and above, for me, and you're losing a little bit of that, it's the lowest end where you get where it's most pleasing, and you're losing it from that, and you're going to want to put that that little bit of slam back. So even though I prefer the clarity with going towards the bright end, it's not worth the trade-off, because I think this speaker really is about the quality of its bass. It is great what this speaker can do in the bass and hold on to, but there's a lot of other issues. Not least if that was my only one, I'd be saying it's unusable. However, my grey one works fine. My black one, very, very buggy. So it's not going that loud. You know, almost not quite coming alive in the sense of me. Look, if this was a £20 speaker, I'd be saying that this is unbelievable. Go out and everybody's going to get one and get one for your aunt. But this is a £200 speaker, and I'm expecting a hell of a lot more from it. So that's why some of the limitations apply because of its price. And one of those limitations is how low. Now, I did a pink noise test. And it was about the quietness. Now, bear in mind, I'm doing a pink noise. I'm measuring peak, absolute peak. That's instantaneous loudness it will go. That's not overall perceived loudness. But in terms of absolute peaks, and that may be related to getting a little bit of excitement, a little bit of a party feeling out of it, even a little bit of dynamics it may relate to. It was the quietest, about one of the quietest I've measured. In fact, I was staggered that it was, the peak is lower at maximum volume than my Max Sound Plus, which is a £37 speaker when I checked it today. Yep, indeed, £37. I couldn't believe it. I thought I'm doing something wrong, and I'm getting the same result with either of these speakers. I had to do a proper sound clip. This is a maximum sound clip between this £200 A1 second gen 3 years on from the first gen against £37 Max Sound Plus.
I want a day, don't mistake for monogamy. No third base, let's go all the way. Drinking rosé like a holiday. No need to own cause I pay rent. You need me, I'm going on vacation. I party with no obligation. I'm single and I feel amazing. I ain't about that life. I ain't about that life. Ain't no project wife, I'm a logic right cause I'm not your type. I ain't about that life. I ain't about that life. Sorry ma, I ain't get it right. I'ma just live my life. I ain't about that, I ain't about that life. You may say I ain't doing it right. You can do what you like, but I'm choosing my life, okay? And I refuse your advice. I ain't about that life. I ain't about that life. Ain't no pride wife, got my logic right, cause I'm not your type. I ain't about that life. I ain't about that life. Sorry ma, I ain't get it right. I'ma just live my life.
The A1, the Max Sound Plus. Minus 15.4 dB max sound, minus 16.5. That makes the Max Sound Plus about a decibel louder. Unbelievable. What do we get from the A1? Well, we get a bit more bass, minus 23.5 at 70, 2.5 decibels louder. So it's got a deeper bass. It's the £200 speaker. The Max Sound Plus, the A1. You're getting more definition, more high end from the Max Sound Plus at maximum volume because the A1 doesn't go very loud, and by the time it hits maximum volume, it's already dropping some of its bass. A bit of a shocker to me. Does it sound good at its maximum volume? Yes, but not quite, for me, loud enough for a £200 speaker for me to say, all right, yeah, this is going to be my go-to. I'm going to get my A1 out because I know the limitations. It's not going to go quite loud enough. I'm not going to get that much enjoyment out of all my music, and I'm going to need a pair of them. Did that one? No, it turned itself off. A pair of them, because I've said that because that does randomly come on and then disconnect anything else I was connected to on Bluetooth on my phone. So it's very, very annoying. The black one, not the grey one. But yeah, £200 speaker, you're going to end up, I would imagine, having two of them. That's £400. And you don't double the sound, remember that. You get about 30% more in perceived loudness when you have a pair of them. So the fact that the Max Sound Plus, £37 is louder at maximum, albeit without the bass. Obviously, it's easier to go louder when you don't have the bass and you're just putting the power into the mids and the highs that take less power to drive. It goes louder. However, maybe a little less bass, a little bit more bass drop off, and a little bit more of a high end. It maybe would have been more rewarding. So where does that leave me? I'm going to do sound comparisons down the line. My next video will be against the mini rig. It will be one A1 versus one mini rig, and then I'm going to do stereo comparisons and other speakers down the line. But there is a lot. I wanted to get all the specs out there so I didn't have to do that in another video, just in case you're coming into it, like me, for the first time. I only know anecdotally what people were saying. So it was a mixed bag. Obviously, if you come in with no expectations, you'll probably be knocked off. If it was no expectations and 70 quid, and you would say, this is incredible. But it was with high expectations, because people talk very highly of this speaker, certainly of the first gen, and £200, knowing it's going to be £400 for two of them. And on that basis, I'm disappointed in how loud it goes, because I can't go, it doesn't quite have enough excitement for me. It's not, I want to make this clear. This has incredible quality in its bass for its size. And that's what you're paying for. Something really, really that small that you can, even with that form factor, unbelievably, sit on its edge with or without some sort of holder. And it sounds really, really nice, but it will always be mono, even though it does have that tweeter. And you're looking at £400 for a pair. So it's quite a relaxing listen. I don't find it that exciting, and I don't find it that detailed. And I think maybe I'm trying to work out why I'm not that excited. I think it's lacking some of the detail that would make up for not having the volume. If it's a detailed sound, there's enough there for my ears to be tuning into without having to think about, I want a bit louder. It's not quite dynamic enough. Obviously, the louder music goes, the more dynamic it sounds, and it sounds more pleasing. So if they could get a bit more volume out of one of these, maybe my views would change. Anyway, that's my first impressions. That's an overview of the specs. Just for anyone coming in it for the first time, that's where I am at the moment. My next video will tell you where I am with against the Mini Rig Mark III, which is a 360-degree speaker with much the same orientation, upwards firing as the Bang Olufsen A1, except it doesn't have a tweeter, and it's a lot cheaper. But till now I've been talking about it being, oh, that's the audiophile speaker to go for. Not that I class myself as an audio. People say, oh, you're an audiophile. I'm not an audiophile. I like my music, and it doesn't have to have a flat frequency response or anything like that. I just have to enjoy it. So I don't regard myself as an audiophile. I regard myself as someone who likes my music. And whatever speaker you have, it's fine by me if you like it. To me, an audiophile is probably someone who says, and that's rubbish, and you don't know what you're talking about. So that's not me, by the way. So I have no idea what I was talking about. Yeah, I was just saying, for me personally, I completely lost my train of thought, but that's where I am now. Slightly disappointed, and yet I do think it's a great speaker. It just lacks some excitement for me at this stage. Maybe it just needs really good quality tracks. I did notice that you've got to fire decent quality tracks out of this, but it still lacks some of that detail. Anyway, let me get on, and hopefully see you again in my A1 versus Mini Rig Mark III video. So thank you for watching. Hope you got something out of this video, and maybe see you again another time.